Hi, everyone, and welcome to SoftFil Academy's webinar. We are very happy to welcome all of you. Most of all, we're very honored to have Dr. Marcus Mehta with us tonight presenting this webinar. Welcome.
Hello, Anna. Nice to be here. I'm looking forward to this evening.
So I will start giving a few information, giving a bit of time for everyone to connect. This webinar is being recorded, just so you know. So if you have to miss any part of it, it will be in replay available from tomorrow on SoftFil Academy's website and on our YouTube page as well. Also, please know that it will be subtitled in French and Spanish and English as well. So don't worry if you have to miss a part of the webinar. You'll be able to watch it tomorrow. What else? Just about the questions that you might have, please don't hesitate to ask all of your questions in the Q&R or in the chat. You can ask them all along the webinar, but all the questions will be answered at the end of Dr. Mehta's presentation. Yes, maybe I will start by introducing Dr. Marcus Mehta, that is an aesthetic physician from the UK. He is the director of the UK's largest postgraduate training called Harley Academy, and he's been practicing aesthetics, facial aesthetics, for the past 10 years. Dr. Mehta is also the co-founder of Story Clinics in the UK, and one of the founding members of the fastest growing social network for aesthetic professionals worldwide called COMA, the Community for Medical Aesthetics. Dr. Marcus Mehta is a KOL for Polenium, so for Revanesse and SoftFil, and he's splitting his working week between injecting patients in his clinic and managing the marketing activity at Harley Academy. So this is actually his first webinar with SoftFil Academy. We're very excited, and tonight's presentation is going to be about how to get the most natural results and his injection techniques using micro-cannulas. So yes, I think that's it. We can start with Dr. Mehta's presentation. I'll let you go ahead, and we'll talk to you again at the end of the presentation to answer all of the questions. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Hannah, for that introduction. And I'm really pleased to be here this evening with SoftFil to talk a little bit more about cannula use. But I think what's really useful when I've watched these sort of webinars before is to understand a little bit more about how other people inject, because as aesthetic professionals, we're often quite isolated in our practice. We often don't come together, maybe just at a yearly conference. And so these webinars are a really good opportunity to understand a little bit more about other people's practice, how they inject, and hopefully you'll pick up some tips and tricks along the way of stuff that might be useful to you. So my webinar this evening is about cannula use and achieving natural results. And I'm going to talk about all of the key areas that you would treat in the face. And it's great for me really to talk about this tonight, because as of the last 2-3 years of my practice, 95% of the treatments that I do are cannula led. I actually very rarely use a needle now, and there's some elements in this presentation where I'll talk about where I think a needle is essential, but for the most part, I actually use a cannula for nearly all of my practice for a number of reasons that I'm going to be talking about this evening. Now, I'm also going to pair this presentation up with the SoftFil part to do with the cannulas and the tools that you use to inject, but also the gels that I use to inject as well. So part of the Polenium family is Revanesse fillers. This is the box of Revanesse outline. And tonight what I'm also going to do is run through the Revanesse portfolio from Kiss right through to Shape and talk about where in those areas where do I use those fillers to get the best results for my patients? And then consequently, what tools do I use to do that as well? So hopefully it should be an interesting presentation for you this evening. Now, first up, what I'm going to do is just get this Q&A open as well, so I can see your questions. So if I go back here, firstly, let's talk a little bit more about general principles. And I think whenever we start talking about anything to do with injecting, it's important to understand what are the basics that we need to understand to then go on to explain how do we treat, why do we treat, and where are we trying to place those gel fillers within the face. So I like to almost think about the face, and although it's a simplistic explanation of the face as 5 layers. So you've got layer 1 through to layer 5. Layer 1 is the skin. Layer 2 is the superficial fat. Layer 3 is the muscular layer, or the SMAS, the superficial muscular aponeurotic system. 4 is deep fat, and layer 5 is finally bone. And although those 5 layers don't exist truly throughout the face, for example, the temple has been described as having 10 layers, and other areas having much less than 5. But I think as a general overall principle, it's important to be able to relate when you're injecting, and when I'm talking this evening, which layer are we trying to inject into, and why are we doing that to get the result that we're trying to achieve? So let's start with layer 5. What happens at layer 5, and why is it a good target? Because we all know that layer 5 is probably one of the best targets to treat when we're using hyaluronic acid gel fillers. So layer 5 is the bone, it's the skull, and the skull changes as we age. One of the main changes we see is the bony layer gets reabsorbed. We lose the bony structure underneath the face. And as a result, things happen such as on this diagram you can see on the right of this illustration I did with someone, an aged face with a skull. You can see the orbits getting larger. You can see the maxilla slightly recessing. You lose volume in the chin. The bony areas really change as we age. And as a result, the overlying soft tissues lose that framework and structure that they're usually supported by. Moving from deep to superficial, you've then got layer 4. Now, layer 4 is the deep fat. And the deep fat is a really important target when we're treating, because it is truly the area that atrophies and we lose volume from in this layer. So layer 4 is a key target, in particular for cannula use. We'll talk a little bit more today about how you get into those various compartments. For me, the main areas are the deep medial cheek fat. You can see here on the diagram on the right, the DMCF. All these images are illustrations that I've drawn for our training school over time. So feel free to take pictures of these images and